Hi, I'm Tom Burgess, and thank you for listening to The Real Agenda, the podcast of political change. Today we talk about what the people want, what we the people want. Well, we want change, but what sort of change and how can we get it? It seems successive governments have failed to deliver what people want, and we now have 14 million in poverty. Inequality is more extreme, and we're dying younger, and this generation is worse off than the last. Now that's the real agenda. So there's no doubt that a long-awaited political realignment is going on. Will that make change happen? Or is it still old politics? Or are we in for something new and innovative? And if we are to build a more compassionate and courageous society, we have to come together. So to find out more, I spoke to an organisation that certainly has a hopeful name. But can it, or indeed can we, deliver the change we want? So on today's show, I speak with Wain, the Chief Executive of United for Change. Now, as a native of Liverpool, when I spoke to him, he was still exuberant from the victory over Barcelona in the Champions League, which was actually a lesson that you can still come from behind and achieve a great result, in this case win, as long as you're determined and you rarely pull together as a team. So United for Change is a start-up political movement, having seemingly transformed from thinking it wanted to be a political party. It's still operating in stealth mode. Very little has been written about what they're up to, but the real agenda was invited into the team camp, as indeed we are the podcast of political change. So it was good to find out what's going on and how this organisation seeks to be different than others in the political field, and how it could possibly positively impact the lives of millions of people suffering from extreme economic inequality and resultant financial hardship. I started by asking Ryan what he thought was wrong with British politics.
So for me, the problem with British politics is quite deep-rooted actually within the system, within Westminster. It's not necessarily any of the individuals involved in politics, but more the nature of our political parties. I think they're far too tribal. I think our politicians have lost the ability to discuss and debate, and we're at a time in our country's history where more than ever we need people to come together to discuss and to share ideas from across the political spectrum to help take on some of the big challenges that are facing us, and also to see some of those opportunities that are out there tomorrow. So if I was to distill it down, I'd say the problem with politics is tribalism. I think there has been a careerism set in amongst some aspects of our political system, some people within it. I feel that all that adds up to short-termism. If you were to sum it up in one line, you'd say that our politician at the moment, they put the party before country. And I think what we need to do is just try and shift that, and it's country before party.
We vote for a government to fix things and to raise living standards and to improve our society and infrastructure. And it's just not happening, and successive governments, I'm not necessarily pointing the finger at one, it hasn't. We need a government that does do that. So how do you feel about that? Do you think that we need to get rid of the whole lot and start again?
I think there's an element of pressing the reset button on this, and certainly where United for Change has come from is purposefully a group of people from outside of Westminster. And I think if you look at some of the big changes that have happened across industries, across countries, across governments, the change has come from outside the existing system that you're trying to change. I think that's really important for us. But we're not just a random hodgepodge group of people. We are united by a belief that Britain should be doing better, but it's being failed by politics as is. But also we have amongst our ranks experts and those of experience in some of the areas that you mentioned about, which I agree, there's some huge endemic issues that we need to tackle. So teachers, doctors, nurses, but also some of our finest academic brains who we think coming together present the right combination for delivering a policy agenda that the country needs.
Why did you set up United for Change?
Because no one else was doing anything, and it's as simple as that. I came together with a group of people where we were sort of, as many people doing up and down the country, we were despairing at what was happening to the country. We were looking up at Westminster for a bit of leadership, and we were looking up at our different respective parties, so we're cross-party grouping, and we were seeing no leadership, And it gets to a point where you're looking around waiting for the solution, waiting for the answers to arise, and then you realise, do you know what? We've got to stand up and do it ourselves. That's why we set up United for Change. It's not the solution, it's not the finished product. The idea is that when we do launch, which is in the summer, then we'll invite people to come and be part of the thing that we're trying to build, our movement to change how politics is done in this country.
And what are you trying to build?
So it's a movement. It's a movement of people who are saying to Westminster, saying to our parliamentarians of all political colourings that enough is enough and that we need to change who does politics, we need to change how we do politics in this country, and we need to change the reasons why people go into politics in the first place. And so United for Change is a vehicle to do just that. It's going to provide a digital space where people can come together, but also we're going to borrow from some of the amazing campaigns that we've seen happen across the world, which have genuinely transformed politics in their respective countries. And we're going to...
And what an example of that?
So we've spoken to the guys behind On Marsh. We've learned from campaigning groups in Italy, in Spain, where they've upset the status quo. And for us, it's about taking people, it's about bringing people together, which seems really important, using technology to do that, but also recognising that there's a need for people to come together offline too. And I always talk about, building a campaign, building a movement that will live on streets and screens across the UK and that is genuinely accessible to everyone. So accessible in terms of technology, but also in terms of how we speak and how we engage with people. And again, you asked me right at the start, what's wrong with our politics? I think you see an absence of it connecting to real people.
So what makes you different, or what will make you different when you've launched, than other movements? You're not a political party, you're a movement. How are you different than others, or who would you compare yourselves to?
Our roots are very much outside of Westminster, and I think if you look at the political options, should we say, that are on the table at the moment, the majority, if not all of them, are from within Westminster. They either involve existing MPs or they are certainly born and live in and amongst the Westminster village. And I'm not dismissing these guys, because anyone who stands up for change, they deserve our backing and support. For us, I think there's a very particular way that you need to do it, and that is something that's genuinely new, and that's what we'll look like. It will be different faces, it will be different voices, we'll be saying different things from what you'd expect from a political grouping. As a result of that, the new faces will hopefully bring new ideas and a new politics. You're
currently operating in a sort of stealth mode, really. You're not talking about what you're doing. Yeah, kept
secret, but yeah, we're trying to.
When are you actually going to launch, and then what are you going to launch?
The plan has always been for us to launch after a withdrawal agreement. Now, obviously, it's politics, it's Britain, it's 2019. No one has any idea about anything that's going to happen. So trying to build an organisation and a strategy to within this context has proved very, very challenging. But there was a very important reason why we were going to go after the withdrawal agreement. And I'll talk shortly about what might have changed. We felt that the prevailing conversation, most important thing, certainly within the Westminster Village, was the Brexit debate. But we very purposefully brought together Remainers and Leavers, and people like myself who voted one way but now sort of don't feel attached to vehemently to either camp. Recognising that at some point Brexit is going to be resolved in some shape or form, or if nothing else, the country's got some huge domestic issues that we really need to find the answers and the people to solve the problems for. Our plan was to go after the withdrawal agreement, recognise that as a time when you could launch something and not be sort of drawn into a Remain or Leave camp, which we want to avoid, because this is a message that there's probably a lot more in common between those two camps, certainly a vast majority of people in those two camps, than the media might otherwise say at the moment. And the idea was to launch after the withdrawal agreement and then really start focusing on Britain and how we make Britain the best it can be, and doing that through changing its politics. Now, obviously, Parliament has proved itself radically incompetent when it comes to dealing with an issue as huge as Brexit. So we're at a bit of an impasse now as a country. Whilst we may be 50-50 Remain Leave, I think we are near enough 100% that the Brexit negotiations have been a shambles, and that we do need something new in politics. So I think the time for a movement like United for Change, come from outside of Westminster, I mean, the time for us launching is probably imminent, and we've got everything ready here, and we are just waiting to press the go button at the right time. It won't be before the European elections, but expect to see something over summer. Now, in terms of what that thing will be, we will be launching a campaign, and that will live on streets and screens across the UK. And that campaign will have a simple message, which is sign up, not because we're the final product, but because we need like-minded individuals to say enough is enough. I'm going to do my bit. I'm going to stand up for change. I'm going to stand up to be part of United for Change. I'm going to help build this movement. We're going to try and get 125,000 people signed up in the first 3 months. And we've built a digital infrastructure that will allow those people to take part in one of the biggest campaigns, listening campaigns that the UK will ever have seen. And we want to go around and simply ask people across the UK what they think of Britain. We've got 8 questions that we're going to put to them. We've got a piece of software that will allow that to be, all the information to be collected. And we'll basically create a big repository of how people feel about the UK at the moment, how people feel about politics, but also, crucially, what they see the answers and the opportunities as at the same time.
So this is very much the en marche approach, wasn't it? They gave people something to do, they all signed up, gave people something to do, got them involved and got the information back. Makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah. And unashamedly, I'm a plagiarist if it's a good idea, and I think there's lots that the En Marche campaign got wrong, there's lots that they got right, and this is certainly stealing from that side of the campaign.
They seem to win all those elections with, complete outsiders, but with no real hard and fast policies. Macron got in, and then some of the ideas about taxing wealth or something sort of went out the window a bit, it seemed to me, and it all got a bit woolly. I'm in now, well, what do we do? So you've learnt from that, have you?
I think it's pretty basic stuff, but you've got responsibility to really work out what you can say to people at the beginning, what you can promise people. Make sure that you've got a plan to deliver on it. Otherwise, you're just repeating the same old politics as is. When it comes to election time, if I speak to my granddad about politics, he's completely removed from it. He hates it. He hasn't voted for the last 20, 30 years because he'll tell you the same thing. Politicians promise things before elections because they want your vote, and then they fail to deliver on it. It's so simple, but it's so damning, and it's so worrying if we don't address that.
We vote for things to happen and they just don't. And it seems to me that people have just accepted that. I do think we've now got to a point where we can't accept it any longer, and we are seeing a fragmentation with what's happened in Westminster. I see that with the Change UK group, but also it seems that the More United group has started to take on a new life. Have you had any dealings with them?
Yeah, so I've met all like-minded groups in this space, and my approach to this is that we're all ultimately trying to realise the same mission, and it'd be silly if we didn't work together. I'm impressed by More United, impressed about where they came from. I think they saw the need for this before most people did, and they've got a phenomenal team over there. And the idea of bringing parliamentarians together, uniting them over single issues, I think is remarkable, and you can see that really play out in the number of people they get knocking on doors for those candidates who they end up backing. So they've got a big role to play in this. Again, the Change UK guys have taken the brave step of leaving their broken parties, of calling out their broken parties, and they are certainly part of the solution. But I think the crucial thing is that none of these groups, including United for Change, are the solution. We're all part of the solution. Key to making this work is that our mindsets are united around what we're trying to achieve, but also a willingness to work together.
Okay, so let's just come back a bit to what you're trying to achieve, to relate that back to the 14 million in poverty, or other people that are struggling, young people that can't afford, not only buy houses, but can't even afford to rent them.
Yeah.
We've got to a crazy situation. What do you think about that?
As you talk to those issues, which, let's face it, are so prevalent, I get angry, and I think a lot of people get angry. In short, I think what United for Change is trying to do is trying to turn that anger into a little bit of hope and a little bit of optimism, and I think we've been completely devoid of that in politics over the last few years. Whether it's what is clearly a rising number of homeless people on the streets, or an education system that is not fit for purpose, NHS waiting times going through the roof. What is crazy is that the right answers and the solutions are out there. We just can't implement or deliver them. So what Unite for Change is going to do is very simply bring together the people who have those solutions, give them a platform to implement them. And you know what? We'll be open and honest and candid about that from day one. We need people to lean in and want to support us. And if they don't, then we pack up and go home. We probably try and salvage the existing political parties. But for us, we just feel like we need to press the reset button and offer something new that can bring those great minds together, but also talk about how you actually make these things happen, turn it into reality.
Because that's it, isn't it? And I've talked on this programme to several people in that situation. Yeah. So to Matt Downey at Crisis Homelessness Charity, yes. And one of the first things...
Perfect example. Yeah.
He's got a book the size of a telephone directory, that how to solve homelessness. Even if you just put it in financial terms, 19 billion, sort the problem out, 56 billion or 50 billion benefit. Apart from the fact that all these people have now having a better life. IPPR with their Economic Justice Commission, it's all in there. That's a whole manifesto, and the Resolution Foundation, the Intergenerational, all there. And we've got the evidence, and you think that's what we want delivered. So who's going to do this?
Yeah. And why aren't the existing parties picking that up? They get lobbied by these guys. The guys at Crisis is a perfect example. They've got one of some of the finest public affairs guys in the country, and they're knocking on parliamentarians' doors. They've got all the answers there, put them in front of them. Yet what happens is the party machinery kicks in, and it falls back to the same old rules when it comes to election. What is going to get me votes? What's going to keep the vote that these guys think they own? The party machinery, the party before country kicks in. They wind up with very mediocre policy ideas. Innovation stifled, and the parties are broken. The reassuring thing, the hopeful message is that like you say, Crisis, perfect example, the answers and the brains are out there. We just need to give those guys a home, a vehicle, platform.
I'm a director of Taxpayers Against Poverty, which focuses on the evidence, collecting some of the evidence together, but the two main reforms we want is minimum income standards and truly affordable housing. If we had those two things, a whole different life. And, so therefore land value tax. Now you talk to the Labour Party about land value tax while we're thinking about it.
Perpetually thinking about it.
That's exactly what I said to them. But you're going to change that then?
Yes, and I think it goes back to the who does politics, the how we do politics, and why people do politics in the first place. We've got to end careerism, and I think we need some pretty radical solutions in Parliament to do that. So we talk, for example, about term limits. The next election, 1 in 4 English and Welsh MPs will have been in power for at least 25 years, which is crazy. No one can do a good job for that amount of time. And it also affects your decision making and your willingness to push through an issue, because you're worried about whether you're going to get the promotion next time around or be able to climb the party hierarchy. We want to put an end to all of that, so that when an MP, and let's face it, most of these guys they're smart and talented and clever, when they see your literature in front of them, when they see that evidence-based policy, you get an ambassador for it, someone who's going to say, I'm going to fight for this, I'm going to push it through. And guess what? Because people are less in it for themselves, if we can do that change, then there'll be more willingness to entertain novel, interesting, different, new, innovative ideas and really start to tackle some of these big issues. Otherwise, our country's going to be left behind.
Absolutely. So before we finish, what can people do about it? People listening to this will say, I completely agree, or I don't agree, but I think we need change from what we've got now. What can they do? It's
really simple. For us, we've been in the making for 18 months. We're a start-up in the political world, and it's actually a horrible combination, but one which we've learned from. And I feel like we've made all the mistakes that you need to make. And now we're in a place where I think we've got a great campaign, and the team at Unite for Change are phenomenal, some brilliant people around the table. We've got a great website, a great digital platform. When that goes live, look out for us, give us a chance, and if you want to, sign up. And remember, signing up is not just saying, I support this, but I want to be actively involved in this. And then, at that point, there's a number of different ways that you can help us out. Your ideas, your time, funds if you've got them, but most of all, your support. Together, the odds are stacked against us, but we can do this.
And one of the things we share in common is that we started our political careers as student presidents Indeed. Of student unions. It may be in different decades, but nevertheless, we've been there, done that, and now you're pushing it forward. And it is always a challenge getting people involved Indeed. In what you fully believe in. I wish you all the best. There's no question that people want to see change. And if it's non-partisan or it's less tribal, we're coming together, then we might make a difference.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Now, you can find out more about United for Change. Go to their website, which is unitedforchange.uk. So there's not much there right now. There will be a new website, I understand, which will appear at the launch. And however, you can sign up to their mailing list. I'm glad that United for Change has focused on being a political movement. When it was formed, it was touted as a new party, but thankfully seems to have dropped that. Because once you're a party, you enter the conflict zone. At least as a movement, you can develop a broader base of support. They seem to be taking a lot from the Macron playbook in the initial stages. Unfortunately, once in government, he then actually seemed to give in to the wealthy and disrespect the poor in society and ignoring the basics of leadership. So I hope any new movement will learn from this. So what do you think? Do email us at info@realagendaradio.org with your comments and ideas, as this is your show and we'd love to hear from you. So what's up next on The Real Agenda? Well, we'll be talking about business behaving badly and how it could be better. And we'll be looking at the intergenerational contract with Laura Gardner from the Resolution Foundation. That's all coming up on The Real Agenda, the podcast of political change. So thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe with your podcast provider. You can get more info on our website, realagendaradio.org. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. To join our mailing list or join our team, just email info@realagendaradio.org. And a special thanks to our sponsors, Reverse Media Group, one of the fastest growing search and media companies. Find out why at reversemediagroup.com. One thing is certain, people want to see change to a more compassionate and just society, as well as more courageous politicians prepared to do the right thing for the people over party. It's urgent, and it's up to us to make it happen. That's The Real Agenda. I'm Tom Burgess. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.